Things have been going as badly as they can for me. In the morning, I had a 10 o'clock class and the computer conked out. So fortunately, my friend who normally helps with this, he lives close by and he came and fixed it in no time. So I was able to salvage 22 minutes from the previous class. And then I had asked an AC technician to come, and he came late. He came early. I asked him to come at 12:45. He came at 11:15. So, and before he left, I had a problem. So anyway, so let's get going. Yesterday the last 2 days I've not been keeping very well. So I don't know if I'll be able to take the full class today. And I don't know if I'll be able to take the full class. Probably take a truncated class with your permission, because I really am not keeping very well. Yesterday, I wanted to draw your attention to a couple of things. Only Kavya was there, and I told her that there is a intricate relationship that one must explore between Dharma Shastra and Niti Shastra. But since we haven't yet started off with Shastras, let me finish giving you a few examples of what Sthapatya Veda is. Now, what you need to understand about Sthapatya Veda, it is an Upaveda, as you can see on the screen. The thing with Sthapatya Veda is, or rather with any of the Vedas, Ayurveda, Dhanurveda, or the main Vedas and the Vedangas, all of these things, you can actually see that these are not holy books as people make them out to be. None of the Vedas are holy. There's nothing sacred about them. Okay, I already told you they are like geographical descriptions. They also are about poetry. They are about lyric. They are about various different forms of art, architecture, and science. The Shastras, which get translated into English as philosophy, and they get translated into English as philosophy, and automatically we do what the positivists have taught us, which is philosophy and science are opposites. Okay, that there is no science in philosophy. It is speculative. It's not conclusive. There can be n number of views and none can be proved right. Those are the kind of things that people talk about when they talk about philosophy. So please do not translate Shastra as such into philosophy. If you want, translate it into science. I would say stick to the usage of the Shastra itself. Okay. Shastra by definition is a Shastra. A Shastra is something that can be used as a weapon. Now, when we say Astra, Astra is a weapon. Now, please remember, by weapon, we are not saying that it is a gun or a bow and arrow or any of those things. Okay, it can be anything. Okay, it can mean anything. It can mean a chisel, it can mean a hammer, it can mean any of these things. And the same thing you find even in the Upavedas. The only difference between the Shastras, which are a part, strictly speaking, which are a part of the Upavedas, they are in a way part of Upavedas. The only difference the reason why I put it as a separate head is because when we talk about a Shastra, we are talking about, we are not talking about tools. Okay, we are not talking about skills. We are not talking about all those. Whereas the other ones, whether it is Ayurveda, it is the skill, your knowledge of botany, understanding plants and finding cures for medicines. For Dhanurveda, it is the art or science of warfare. Okay, Gandharva Veda is the science of music. Music is science, music is not art. Please remember that either Carnatic music, Hindustani music, Western music, even the dirtiest Himesh Reshamya kind of music is something which is based in mathematics and in a scientific arrangement of notations. So it is a science. Okay, it's not just an art. So you must understand that. So that is what you'll find in the Gandharva Veda. In the Sthapatya Veda, it is mainly construction, architecture as two very broad fields. Within that, you can have subfields, which is sculpture, painting, all those kind of things. Okay, not painting as painting walls, but your cave paintings. If you've been to Ajanta, you'll see there are beautiful Buddhist cave paintings there. So those are the kind of things that we are talking about when we talk about the Sthapatya Veda. Now there are a couple of instances about the Sthapatya Veda that I would want you to know. I will start with a disaster that happened about 10, 12 years ago, or maybe a little less. Every temple in South India, okay, it's not necessarily so in North India. In South India, you have a Gopuram, as I call it, Gopuram. There's no English word for that. So we have to use Gopura or Gopuram. Okay, every temple has Gopurams, not one. There'll be one which is on the main temple where the deity is. Okay, that is one Gopuram. Okay, the entrance, you have what is called the Gali Gopuram. Okay, all these are built as per a Shastra which is called Agama Shastra. The Agama Shastra I will explain to you in a little bit of detail when we go into Shastras. But for now, I will just tell you, please remember that constructions of temples specifically cannot happen without taking into consideration the Agama Shastra. And if you look at the Agama Shastra, one of the things that you find in that is that it gives you in which direction the Gali Gopuram should be, in which direction the central Gopuram should be, and all that. Now, in Srikalahasti, there is a temple, and it's a very old temple. Some people said it was about 800 years old. Some people said it was more than 1000 or 1200 years old. Whatever it is an old construction. The height of this construction was about 50 plus feet. Okay, that means it rose 50 plus feet into the air. Can you guess what was the depth of the foundation? Because you will have a foundation, right? When you might have seen when we construct houses, even if you construct just a ground floor, you still have to put a foundation, right? And people dig quite deep. So a 50 feet Gopuram, you will be surprised to know, had a foundation that was only 12 inches. That's your scale. Your normal long scale that you get, it's about that much. That was the depth of the Gopuram foundation. And the Gopuram was over 50 feet. It withstood the ravages of time for at least 800 years. Nobody said it is less than 800 years. People said it is more than 800 years. People said it is something which can go up to 1,200 years. But even if you take 800 years, you can still see the Sthapatya Veda and how deeply, in this case, how shallowly it was able to study the building of temples. Okay, so it's an amazing feat. The world was stunned when they came to know this. Then one year, about 5 years ago, there was a series on uh, Discovery Channel, and it was about the great constructions in India. Okay, that's what it and it picked up different constructions. I'm not going to go into all of them. I'm going to go into one example. The example is that of the temple in Madurai, the temple complex in Madurai, which is one of the biggest temple complex. It was built by the Cholas and specifically by the king Rajaraja Chola. Rajaraja Chola was the one who built this, and you can fit 5 Vatican cities into the actual temple complex, which is there in Madurai. Okay, so if you're talking about the Cholas, we're talking somewhere around the 11th century, around that particular time. Now, what stumped people was that this entire complex, okay, you know the Vatican City. The Vatican City is where the Pope lives, right? They call it a city. And 5 of those can fit into Madurai. I told you, if you remember, that the temples are in the northern part of the country, are very small compared to the temples in the southern part of the country. Southern part of countries, it's all grandeur. Okay. And so what stumped people was that it was full of granite. The entire construction of that temple complex was done out of this stone that we call granite, Granite. Now, granite is known to be one of the most hard substances. It's not easy to cut granite, right? You just can't break granite easily. So the Westerners were wondering, how did people, first of all, manage to build with so much granite? How much time it must have taken them to cut the granite to the shapes that you want. So they used a typical modern stone cutter. A stone cutter, you know, is a circle that turns at great speed and goes through. And because of the friction between the stone and the stone cutter, heat builds up. So you have to keep pouring water continuously. You have to keep pouring water as the cutter is working on the stone. So they took one of the sizes of granite that was there in the temple, and they basically started cutting it. To cut it into half took them 3 hours, and electricity, because it runs on electricity, and the other thing that they found is that it consumed almost 25,000 liters of water just to cut that. Okay. And they were wondering, how did people, without all these, we didn't have an industrial revolution. How did people find this? How did they manage to break this granite? So that discovery team went around looking for somebody who knows Sthapatya Veda. They were told about it by a local priest. So they went and found this person who knows Sthapatya Veda. And they asked him, can you tell us how you broke this granite to pieces, and that too without any tools? So this man said, yes, I can tell you. I can even show it to you. So they took a granite block. Now what he did is, with a chisel and a hammer, he would make a hole about this deep and this wide. He made that at regular intervals. And he brought Sal Wood. I don't know if you, I only know it as Sal Wood. I don't know if it has a local name, SAL. He brought Sal Wood, broke that into pieces. Okay, he broke that into pieces which would fit into that apertures that were made in the stone. Okay, he soaked the wood in water completely for some time, for about half an hour. He soaked that wood in water and pushed the wood into the holes that he had made in granite. And he said, you go home now, come back tomorrow. Next day, the team went back. And what do they find? The whole stone is broken. Okay, it's broken at. So there was a science at where to make that hole, what wood to use, because that wood, when you put in like this, it starts expanding. And when it starts expanding, it has the ability to even break the granite. Okay. And then they asked themselves, they built pretty high structures. How did this weight go up? Okay. How did so much weight go up? That again they found through the same Sthapatya Veda person. They used elephants to take the stone up a hill. Okay, 2 or 3 elephants would take a stone up a hill. Then they would make a plank. Okay, a plank made of sal again, because sal is very, very strong. And they push that stone from the top to the lower level. And if any of you ever go to Madurai, I have been, please check up. You will see that the entire temple complex is surrounded by hillocks. Okay, so they chose that spot where they could roll the stones down to whatever height they wanted. So I am giving you a pretty detailed explanation, and the reason behind that is basically so that you understand that this is not some Veda means some holy thing, or some mantra patanam which one somebody does. That's not Veda. That's not the Upaveda either. These are all skills. These are basically skills that we need in order to survive. Okay, so the Sthapatya Veda, this is one more example, okay, of breaking granite. I'll conclude with one last example. Like I said, I'm not well at all today. Okay, I hope I'm not coming down with something terrible. At one time, I thought, if COVID comes, all my problems will go. But now I'm scared of COVID. In case I get it, first of all, I'll have to go to Gandhi Hospital. That itself is scary. So I can't afford to go to a regular hospital. Anyway, so I mean, a private hospital. I don't have that kind of money. So anyway, so another example that I'll give you is the temple at Tirumala. Okay, the temple at Tirumala is considered to be, some people say 10,000 years old. Some people say 2,000 years old. But nobody has said that it is less than 2,000 years old. And again, it is built amidst higher hillocks. Okay, the temple sits in a trough which is surrounded by hillocks, and it too is built by granite. But the amazing thing about the Tirupati temple is that there is no bonding between the granite stones. They have just put one stone on top of the other. They have just done that. They have put one stone on top of the other, and they have taken, you know what is beeswax, right? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
You know beeswax. So beeswax was used to seal the these things, the spaces between the stones. And it survived like that for centuries until some person said this beeswax, you know, may not be enough. So what they tried to do is they tried to put a molten lead, you know, lead, right? Uh, when you kind of heat it, it becomes liquid. And when it cools, it becomes solid again. So they tried doing it with lead to make sure that the thing doesn't fall. But you can pour lead over one stone and put another one, but you can't put like this. It's too hot to put like this. So the temple is a marvel of architecture because it does not have any binding material between the stones, right? Between the different stones that have been used, there's hardly any bonding, there's no bonding material. Yet, for centuries, nothing has fallen, nothing has broken. It continues to be a sturdy structure. And that is the reason why people, that is a superstitious thing, of course. People believe that it is a temple built by the Suras, also called the Devas, Indra and co. They say the Devas and the Suras, they built that temple simply because it eludes our comprehension as to how could they put stone on stone, and it's not like one or two, it's like huge, right? And there's no binding material except beeswax. Okay, so Sthapatya Veda, Gandharva Veda, all these Vedas, I want you to understand and remember that these have nothing to do with all the dirt and muck people throw on them. First of all, they say they are religious books. They are not religious books. There is no such thing as a Hindu religion. Please remember that. Okay? There is no Hindu religion. That's a new invention. It's an 19th century invention. There's no Hindu religion. It was simply called Sanatana Dharma. And these have nothing to do with any holy thing, godly. No. They have nothing to do with all that. These are things which tell you about the Brahmanda, the universe, the Brahman, which is the life system. Okay. And the Shastras are those which talk about how to understand the universe. Okay. So people mock us and say you have 3 crore gods. We might have 3. Why 3? We'll have 30, 300 crore gods. No problem. That is not the problem. Right? If I suddenly decide X is a god and start praying, there is no problem. Go ahead and pray. Okay, but that's not the point. The point is none of these have anything to do with that. Okay, the slide that you're seeing has nothing to do with anything about gods. Though I've given you examples of temple constructions, but that's about it. It's about the construction, not about the god in the temple, right? And what I want you to understand is that Shastras are closer to science than to philosophy in the modern sense of the term. Okay, as are the Vedas, the Upavedas, and all of them. So, caste system, which is attributed to the Vedas, has nothing to do with the Vedas. It came much later. Okay, the caste system came much later. So don't attribute those things to these. These don't talk about the caste system. Okay, though the Purusha Sukta is a part of the Rig Veda and it talks about a primeval being from whom you had the four Varnas. It talks about Varnas, not about Jatis. So we will go to that a little later. I'll meet you tomorrow at 11:45 and we'll pick up what Shastras are. Okay, and we will try to understand these Shastras as quickly as we can. Okay, so thank you very much. I'm sorry for the last 2 days. Things haven't been going well for me health wise or wealth wise. I have been drained out of a lot of money in order to run these classes. Okay, thank you. So kind of you. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.
Bye, sir. Take
Bye.
care.
Bye, sir.
Bye bye.